I've been given the task of sharing the knowledge on guidelines in lipidology. It is a very big topic, but I thought I'll give a bird's eye view because there are lots of in-depth lectures at each component of this lipidology. So first thing is, whom should we check for evaluating the dyslipidemia? So that is lipid screening. Who should be checked? Should be checked. Fasting, non-fasting, and how it should be checked. These are all the things I'm going to check. Then the risk stratification, whether he falls into a low risk, moderate risk, or a high risk. Then, depending on that, what is the threshold for treatment and what are the targets to be achieved in each of these conditions. And finally, you should not only prescribe the medicine, but you should also monitor the effect of the drugs on the lipids and effect of the drugs on the adverse events, so that there is a continuous monitoring and surveillance of the impact of the drug on the lipids. So who should be screened? First, all patients who are having a clinical vascular disease, CAD, CVA, peripheral arterial disease, including abdominal aortic aneurysm, which is a manifestation of a atherosclerosis. In addition, you should also screen all patients who have got a lot of risk factors like diabetes, hypertension, tobacco usage, family history of premature coronary artery disease, so on and so forth. And finally, even in asymptomatic people, both men and women beyond the age of 40 years should be screened for dyslipidemia. Now, when should you draw the blood for dyslipidemia? A lot of people believe that it is fasting blood, but I would like to emphasize here that non-fasting blood sample is as good as fasting. And there is one study which says that if you compare the fasting with non-fasting, there is no variation in the non-HDL-C. There is no difference in the ApoB. There is probably a 20% increase in the triglycerides and a 10% decrease in the LDL-C in the non-fasting state as compared to the fasting state. So the current state of knowledge is that you can draw non-fasting both for diagnosis as well as treatment and follow-up of the effect of the drug on the lipid levels. So much of talk has been told about the lipids, but I just want to tell you that atherogenic lipids basically are LDL cholesterol and non-HDL cholesterol, which includes VLDL and triglycerides. Probably, which should be measured. Actually, what we would like to do generally is total cholesterol and plus LDL cholesterol plus triglycerides. These are the three minimum. The non-HDL cholesterol, I'll come back to it when it should be measured. Especially, it should be measured in patients who are taking the statins for control of LDL cholesterol levels. That non-HDL-C seems to give a better idea about the future risk of cardiovascular events as compared to the level of the LDL-C with the statins. Fundamental thing about the therapy of dyslipidemia is based on risk stratification. This risk is risk of developing a vascular disease. Is it a single vascular territory or a polyvascular disease? We classify them using various equations, various risk scores into low risk, intermediate risk, high risk, very high risk. And Lipid Association of India has introduced an extreme risk. According to them, South Asians in general and Indians in particular are highly prone to develop vascular disease as an ethnic group. So he feels that extreme risk is one category that should be applied at least to Indians. And this risk can be modified positively or negatively depending upon the risk modulators. These risk modulators include clinical factors like low ankle brachial index less than 0.9 or biochemical parameters like elevated hsCRP or ApoB more than 130 or lipoprotein small a more than 50. And you can also get some imaging of the atheroma by doing a coronary artery calcium score. And if the score is more than 100, that means there's already established atheroma, and so much so that you should do aggressive therapy for lipid abnormalities. So what are the targets for control of lipids? Most of the guidelines, including ACC, AHA, Lipid Association of India, the primary target, everybody agrees, should be the LDL-C cholesterol because that is the one that is causing the atheroma. But the Lipid Association of India has made non-HDL-C also as a co-primary target for various reasons. And the National Cholesterol Education Program of ATP has included non-HDL-C as a secondary target. Even in patients where the triglycerides are very high, the primary target of lipid therapy should be LDL-C cholesterol. ApoB, lipoprotein small a are also can be targets, but in specialized situations which subsequent speakers are going to enlighten. There has been an evolution of the guidelines regarding treatment. Dr. Manoria has already highlighted, but in summary, in 2001, ATP said the target of the LDL-C should be 100 milligrams. And in 2021, both European Society of Cardiology and Canadian Cardiovascular Society says in very high-risk people, the LDL-C target should be less than 55, with the option of getting it down to less than 40 as well if the patient falls into a very high-risk category. So risk stratification is fundamental for threshold for treatment and also for target for treatment. So how do we go about guidelines of therapy of dyslipidemia? Non-pharmacological. I'm sure Dr. Manchanda is going to do a lot of justice to this non-pharmacological treatment. I will concentrate only on the pharmacological treatment, that is statin, ezetimibe, PCSK inhibitors, because these are the three drugs that are available in India as on today. So basically now what we are going to do is, first thing is lifestyle modification and control of risk factors. In trying to control only lipids, don't forget about other risk factors like control of hypertension, control of diabetes, stopping the tobacco usage, increase in physical activity. These are all lifestyle modifications that comes. But I think we are so much focused only on the risk factor that we tend to forget about other factors that contributes for atheroma. So you always start with the statin, start with a minimal dose, and then escalate the dose until you achieve the targets. If you're not able to achieve it, then you can add ezetimibe, 10 milligrams once daily, and then see how much you have achieved with respect to the target LDL in a given individual patient. If it is still not achieved the targets, then you add PCSK inhibitors. So this is just a graphic way of showing that in the low risk, that means where there are no risk factors except the age of more than 40, and your target LDL-C is anything less than 130 is absolutely okay. But for people with high risk category where there is more than 2 risk factors, the LDL-C will always be less than 100. Preferably it is not include of less than 100. And if you are going to measure the ApoB, it should be less than 90. In extreme risk, Lipid Association of India and also European Society of Cardiology, they say that LDL-C cholesterol level should be less than 55 milligrams per deciliter. But contrary to all our discussion about LDL-C, an analysis of the lipid profiles in Indians has shown that 79% of our people suffer with low HDL, with 30% having high triglycerides, and only 11% of the people having LDL-C cholesterol high. So basically now this is what it is. So we should be concentrating mostly on the triglycerides. But I just want to emphasize here that even when there is a triglyceride elevation, the primary target for lipid treatment should be LDL-C and then followed by non-HDL-C. And if you want to reduce triglycerides, it's mostly for reduction of the possible risk of developing a pancreatitis, that is by administration of icosapentaene. That has been shown that it not only reduces triglycerides, but it also reduces clinical events, although there is no change in mortality. And the FDCT angiogram has also shown that there is a plaque regression by administration of EPA of 4 grams per day. Although the saroglitazar has been shown to have a biochemical effect of reducing the triglycerides, we do not have data whether it does reduce the clinical events or not. Fibric acid derivatives, especially increase the triglycerides, but there is some data to show that fenofibrate also reduces in a selected group of patients given the vascular events. Now, what about the dyslipidemia in special population like children, elderly people, and organ transplant patients? They are all important people, and it is important that to remember that statins do cross the placenta and they are contraindicated in pregnancy and lactation. And omega-3 fatty acids are absolutely safe. And as Dr. Manoria has emphasized in the beginning, that for those people, pregnant patients who have got uncontrolled severe severe dyslipidemia, probably usage of bile acid suppressants may be the appropriate choice. What about the children? When do we screen? What do we do? Lipids not measured before the age of 2 years under any circumstance because they are going to be unreliable. Appropriate time for measurement of lipids in children is 10 years of age and more. And the initiation of pharmacotherapy.
1 minute left.
Yeah, sure. I'll be finishing before that. Initiation of pharmacotherapy should be only after the age of 10 years. And there are special reasons to do earlier than that. In CKD patients, like KDIGO is a professional organization for kidney disease, like ACCH for cardiovascular diseases. They say that all patients with CKD should receive statins and ezetimibe with or without cardiovascular disease. Patients on dialysis, no drugs for dyslipidemia. And if somebody is already taking it, please do not discontinue it. You can continue that. For renal transplantation, receiving steroids and calcineurin inhibitors, LDL-C certainly gets elevated. And it is important that you prescribe statins for those patients who have got dyslipidemia following renal transplantation. So, ladies and gentlemen, in short, dyslipidemia should be checked in appropriate group of patients, identify them, stratify them, and primary target continues to be LDL cholesterol. So, and the co-primary target is non-HDL-C. Drug therapy should be administered starting with statins with escalation of dosage, adding ezetimibe, and if required, you can also add PCSK inhibitors. Important to remember that monitoring of therapy for response and adverse events is absolutely mandatory. And remember and tell all the patients that once we start treatment for dyslipidemia, therapy is lifelong. They cannot discontinue under any circumstance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention.